Welcome to the Romanian Reaver channel, and probably the first video I post up on the channel, so don't expect quality, video or audio for that matter, and expect a lot of rambling from time to time and probably a lot of non-cut elements that sound like shit in retrospect, but eh. This video will be made up of 3 parts, 2 cherry-picked sequences from 2 otherwise not that interesting games, and 1 almost complete replay from a rather more interesting game, an abject lesson in why losing isn't always bad, at least in the sense of fun. Now, here we see a Phoenix class cruiser, which is an American tier 4 cruiser and one of the only 2 standard cruisers that get torpedoes, doing its thing, using mostly its guns at a decent enough range and punishing ships which either don't have enough guns or are in a position to not bring their main advantage, which in the case of Japanese cruisers is torpedoes at close range, to bear. That is a Kuma class Japanese cruiser. Quite dangerous torpedo loadout if you can bring it to bear. Unfortunately, it got stuck next to an island, got set aflame and torpedoed. The Kuma wisely decided to beat tail because, well, the Phoenix, while it's not a particularly good ship in any respect, has enough guns to actually put a serious dent into a Kuma. Yeah. Now, generally speaking, cruisers do not react well to high caliber guns, such as those found on battleships. The amount of armor a cruiser has protects it decently well against cruiser and below armament, but if you're dealing with battleships and 14-inch guns, well, generally speaking, you do not want to be put into a position where you can get shot at by what looks to be 3 battleships, tier 4, 2 tier 4s and 1 tier 5, so about 14-inch guns shooting at you. Not ideal in a cruiser, not ideal at all. Now, you'd think in this case the Myogi, where you can see here in a pretty interesting position getting torpedoes shot at them from both planes and myself, would be the one learning that it's not a good idea to get close, especially when you're just outside effective secondary fire range, but close enough that your main broadside batteries don't really work well. Well, no. He actually lives longer than I do, and lives longer than the guy who learns the lesson does, even though he's got a dead engine and torpedoes were flying towards him at one point. He's actually gonna be quite well off. Now, yes, the other Myogi decided to charge in through the islands and go hero mode. Unfortunately, World of Warships is a bit more realistic, and heroes generally don't live long enough to see particular rewards for their heroism. This is why you do not get close to a torpedo carrying cruiser. Does not matter what class of ship you are, don't do it. If he's half decent, he'll kill you. Now, here we have a replay where, spoiler alert, my team loses. But the loss is, to be honest, quite self-rewarding, to be honest. Now, if we take a look at the team lists, we will see that the enemy team has 2 battleships to R4, but has a carrier and an extra cruiser to compensate, and an extra destroyer, pardon, which is, if I'm not mistaken, a tier 4 Clemson. Yeah. Well, you'd think one side or the other is gonna dominate. Not really. This is one of the few games where either skill was taken into account when factoring in and forming up the teams, or it was pure blind luck, and it was one of the closest run games I've ever played so far in World of Warships. Do note I have about 220 games to my name or thereabouts, so not a particularly large pool of games to draw a statistical analysis from. But this game is, to be honest, one I hope to see repeated, either being on the winning side or the losing side. It really doesn't matter. I mean, it's a fun game. Now, here, if you're new to the game, is what you should generally do not do in a cruiser, which is head towards a smoke bank, not the smoke, with an unknown number of crew of ships, destroyer class, within the bank. You do not know if there are 2, 3, or even 4 in there. And luck out here, managing to kill both of the enemy destroyers, but if there was another enemy destroyer in that smoke bank, he could have been circling around to my side, launching a torpedo salvo straight into me as I taking a turn, which means I take it full on, and the Cleveland, contrary to popular belief that it's OP, dies in about 2 solid torpedo hits from a tier 5 destroyer. Now, I'm not sure if the enemy team was expecting this, or if the Omaha was the only one that had any clue that there was a crazy person piloting the Cleveland, because he's certainly the only one that initially took steps to try and prevent me from doing what I'm about to do. Unfortunately for him, both the Fuso and the Aoba ignore me for quite a bit, which allows me to do my thing, which in a Cleveland is brutalize anything lower tier than it. Quite honestly, brutalize quite a few of the higher tier ships as well. Generally speaking, when a Cleveland gets underneath 10 kilometers, somebody's gonna die. And it's usually not the Cleveland, unless it's on low health and you get lucky. This Omaha is about to... well, I can only imagine what he was saying in his team chat right about this point. But yeah. Now, the Aoba is another important target to focus on because it has 8-inch guns. And those 8-inch guns, if they manage to connect anywhere near the Citadel, do about 1000 to 2000 damage with the AP. The HE is also pretty painful because it can send a lot of fires, at least with a cruiser. I've never seen a destroyer react anywhere near well enough to actually just be set on flames by an 8-inch shell. Now, the Fuso finally woke up and decided that, dude, this guy's getting close, he has enough guns, the AP shells are potentially dangerous if he knows where to shoot. So he takes a shot. The shot goes wide, and because I'm so close, yet so far, his secondary batteries have not yet opened up, and his primaries are missing. However, the Aoba is smart. Yes. This is why you do not get close to a cruiser with torpedoes. You could be in a battleship, you could be in a cruiser. Does not matter. It'll either hurt a lot or you'll die. However, 3 kills. That guy's on fire. Yeah. Vengeance from beyond the grave. Sweet thing when it happens. And it does happen quite a few times if you're lucky. Now, if you remember the battle cry at the start of the game, you will see me proceed to pleasure myself in public quite vigorously. But as you can imagine, as somebody who took out for the first 4 enemy ships that die in the game, I'm quite happy. It's the first result like that I've gotten since one of my Congo games where I actually managed to sink 2 battleships in one of the enemy carriers. Yeah. Oh, and considering how this game goes, well, we skip forward to the good bits. Now, as you can clearly see, the enemy fleet is down to 2 destroyers. Our fleet is down to 2 cruisers, 1 battleship, 1 destroyer. Scratch that, make that 1 cruiser. So, you'd think they couldn't possibly have lost this. But unfortunately for us, the enemy destroyers were sane. They weren't rookies. They knew how to play. They saw that they had all 3 cap points and they decided to wait. And yes, they win. To be honest, most people would be raging. But most people aren't me. From my point of view, they won fair and square, and that game is fun. It's pretty fucking fun. And I respect the destroyer players for winning an almost unwinnable game. Now, moving on to the last bit of this video. A sequence filmed yesterday after a catastrophically bad day in my Cleveland, where either I was getting torpedoed or somehow sniped from 14 kilometers away by Nagatos. I have no idea how they did that, but RNGesus really did not smile on me in that day. Now, one of the guys who consistently kept cropping up and kept giving me his love underneath my anti-torpedo belt suggested that I take a break from the Cleveland and play a destroyer if I had any. I was, okay, I have a tier 4 Japanese one. Oh, the Izokaze, that's a pretty good destroyer. Has good guns and a decent amount of torpedoes. You should really try it. The tier 5 is even better. I'm like, okay. Now, as you can clearly tell, I'm not really a good destroyer pilot at this stage. I use the destroyer pretty much as an escort, which, yes, may have worked in real life, but in World of Warships you generally do not want to be next to the thing that gets shot at by not that precise guns. Still, I try. Here we see why it's generally not a good idea to graduate from a cruiser directly up to a tier 4 destroyer. At tiers 2, 3 and 4 maximum games, that Kawachi would be the fastest, or at least not that rare, as to make a pretty good torpedo target for you to actually learn how to aim a spread at distance. But me being a cruiser pilot, I'm used to shooting shit with torpedoes at close range as a final act of defiance. Yes, I'm a very, very dirty kill stealer, but honorable kill is honorable. Now, a cruiser usually has a wider turning circle. I was expecting to swing around the island, but yeah. At this point I'm thinking launch torpedoes, damn it, launch them all, I'm gonna die anyway. Wait.
Enemy heavily damaged.
Okay, that was unexpected. I mean, I've had games where the enemy ship suddenly chinked and managed to dodge 3 out of the 5 and went on to go like, yeah, fuck you particularly, and shoot me straight in the face and kill me. And generally speaking, a destroyer that close to a battleship, speaking from experience in my own battleships, does not live long. And it usually does not do that. Unless the destroyer pilot is particularly skilled, or the battleship pilot is particularly shit, but I guess the dude was too busy looking at other shit. In either case, I'm gonna be playing destroyers a bit more often from now on. The rest of the game goes on quite predictably. How can I put this? My part in the game's pretty much done with. Aside from some hits on a destroyer later on, which is a tier 5 Motsuke class destroyer, I don't do anything else. The Motsuke, by the way, pretty much brutalized me, shot me with torpedoes, and just as I was about to dodge said torpedoes, shot me in the direction and left me crippled and sailing straight into torpedoes. But yeah, you learn interesting tactics in destroyers. Well, that's about it for today, gents. Hope you enjoyed the video, and BAFTA.